Godzilla lights it up. This is your look at the new NECA Toys Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S, the color variant of Godzilla. Godzilla awakens at the bottom of the sea, 1 year after surviving a vicious battle against Mechagodzilla. Now bearing an enormous scar from the battle, Godzilla makes landfall again. As Mechagodzilla is prepared to defend Japan once more, Mothra and the Shobijin appear to offer a vital clue to the reason why Godzilla continues to attack. Now the government must make a crucial decision: follow Shobijin's orders or battle both Mothra and Godzilla. The King of the Monsters gets the royal treatment, as this is the previously looked at Godzilla, now decked out in splendid yellow. Before we get a closer look at the figure, the first thing we're going to do is calculate just how tall it actually stands. And taking the tape measure to the very top of his head, we're going to stop it right there. According to my readout, you're looking at Godzilla from Tokyo S.O.S, looking at 7 inches in height. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the figure standing 17.8 centimeters tall. But we're not just going to stop there. For those who are curious, of course, how long Godzilla is, as he has quite a considerably long tail, we're going to go ahead and set things back to the past, at least 2 inches. And let's figure out how long he actually is. So taking it from his snout and extending all the way to the end of his tail, we're going to stop it right there. And while you may not be able to see it, what you'll have to do is just take my word for it. From his snout to the end of his tail, Godzilla is roughly 14 inches in length. That's pretty cool. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at Godzilla being 36 centimeters long. Of course, the obvious comparison we can make is we'll just move over the variation of Godzilla here, and we'll bring in the originally looked at Godzilla from Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. There's nothing that's really been obviously changed to the figure. Well, obviously that goes without saying. Paint has been incorporated to the variation of Godzilla, all decked out now here in a bright yellow. Other than that, there's really nothing that's been changed to the figure. Don't worry, we'll do some comparisons side to side. But like with the other Godzilla that we had to look at, some assembly is required. This tail piece right here is a separate piece when you get Godzilla out of the packaging. Let me just make sure I get that in completely. I did have to do the hot water trick to actually heat this. I think it was right here. This piece of the tail is a separate piece. Just heat the ball joint. And then I'll hit the socket joint and then plug it onto the ball joint. And that's basically all you need to do. Let's go ahead and just bend the tail back. So it's going to take up a little less space. Doing a comparison side to side between the original defaulted look of Godzilla and now the yellow colored version of Godzilla. Let me just go ahead and close the mouth so we can do a like for like comparison. Doesn't seem like there's really anything that's different to the head sculpts. Although I do feel like the mouth sticks a little bit further out on this version of Godzilla. Let's just open up the mouth and teeth and showcase what it looks like inside. The teeth look like they are in the exact same placement. It looks like the head and face sculpt is also the exact same. So really where the changes are made sort of starts happening right around here. And I guess to some extent happens right on the underside of the mouth as well, where it's been painted this vibrant lemon yellow. Which the original Gremlin, I was going to say, the original Godzilla doesn't actually have, nowhere to be found. Still, the noted traits of this particular Godzilla is this frilled collar that he has in the movie. It's continued here as well to the variant of Godzilla, although it stands out certainly a lot more with all the additional color that they were able to incorporate to this one. Again, if we look at this one only had just the standard gray, with noted lighter areas here on the side spikes, sort of where it starts curving inward here. There was a whole lot of lighter colored gray that was added there. This Godzilla goes and takes that to the next level by incorporating all of, again, this vibrant yellow. And there's not even just like vibrant yellow either. There's all these colors you wouldn't normally expect to see on Godzilla. Like, for example, tanned colors. He has a lot of that actually in the colored area, with a lot of that also carried over on the side here, although this color is a little bit more on the reddish color area. Even like looking at the faces side to side, he has a lot more of it on his upper lip, whereas this Godzilla didn't actually have that. The mouth opens and closes the exact same way. We've already had a look at that. The mouth interior doesn't look any bit different. I guess they could have colored this a little lighter as well, but in a way I'm kind of glad that they left it as is. The eyes are still placed and lining up. He's looking up in this case, like it was the case with the other Godzilla as well. It looks good on the side, but when again you look at it from the front, it doesn't give him necessarily a cross-eyed look, but it sort of does throw his eyes off just a little bit. I guess it really depends on whereabouts and how you're going to be displaying the figure. A lot of times when it comes to Godzillas, I kind of like to display them sort of from the sides like this, where their heads are just sort of tilted up. In that case, the eyes don't work as a detriment to the figure. I mean, they're very nicely painted. I may have also even overlooked the fact and didn't mention it in the other review. There's also a little bit of almost a sheen that they've added to the eyeball area. Again, it's just those additional colors that change drastically a mold I already liked and enhances it by adding all this extra stuff on this particular release. Of course, it's not just the underbelly of Godzilla that changes a lot. Spiraling out, almost like the roots of a tree, he has this additional lightning of yellow that's coming out and runs across the side of his body. And that's the case actually on both sides, as you can see. The platelets also located on his back do change drastically as well. Whereas this one that we had looked at before, trying not to get the tails to catch one another, was basically the same common gray that the rest of his body was, and then just dry brushed a very nice white just on the tips. The newer Godzilla, or the variation to that, takes that and takes it then to the extreme. Here you have your traditional plates. Those spikes don't look any bit different. But then they've gone in some areas, like the main large one that's thinning out from the top of his spine here, has been done in a very vibrant blue. And not only is it done in blue, but it looks like they've also added an additional application of what seems almost like a little purple on there as well. That looks really nice. Gets it also on the sides of its fins. That's the case actually on both sides. There is a little bit of noted bleed of blue that's been carried on down to his spine as well, but due to the nature of the way he's painted anyways, it does make sense that the energy is pulsating through him, and a little bit of that then carries on to his body as well. He gets that in some areas also on the spikes. Some of the areas of his tail doesn't get that, so it's only like a few little placements here and then here, right here. Again, I love the texturing and detail that they added to it. A little bit of purple also there on the in-between sections, where basically like this torso piece would rotate. They've divided that out and added a little bit of that lighter purple in there as well. Lightning really does work well on this particular figure, notably a lot lighter here on the interior, and then as it fans out, it transitions from that very bright spiraling of white yellow to more of a more acceptable kind of lemon yellow as it comes out a little bit further out. Something else also I noticed on this particular one is that the hands, not only are they the under pads, the under palm area there are painted, but he's got a few little areas that look like there's got blood. He's got that on this finger claw. And he also has it here on a couple of the other fingers on this side. Actually, this hand gets a lot more of it than this hand does. So it does look like he's been clawing and slashing his way. I really like this, though. I think it works well. And considering the fact that when you look at the two side to side, it's the exact same figure. It's the exact same mold. By adding just that little bit, I say a little bit, a lot of that additional yellow, he really does pop, especially when you have so many of your Godzillas traditionally going the route of the gray. The yellow certainly is one way to enhance the sculpt. And again, we have all that additional orangey yellow that's added to the interior of the thigh, sort of a light up. Sort of from the light that's emanating from the body here, kind of carries a little bit though there also into the legs. Nice sculpted and details added to the texturing there of his, both not only his legs but also his feet as well. Kind of looks also that he's got a little bit of that blood or purple added to the claws, whereas the other Godzilla didn't have that at all. Just a flip up of the feet. About the only place really on this particular Godzilla that doesn't have additional paint. It's only just kept to the basic gray plastic with some noted peg holes on the underside there. You want to make use of a display stand, of course. Because it's the same mold, the articulation would stay exactly the same. First, we'll have a look at his mouth. His mouth does open and close. Certainly a lot easier to pull that off now that things are in a little more of a higher resolution. Hopefully you guys can see that a little bit better. Just a fantastic head sculpt. Love that. But the head does rotate all the way around, no different than the one that we looked at before. It also hinges up and it hinges down. And I guess to some extent you can also tilt it back and forth. The noted crown or chest area collar that he has serves as also a ball joint. So this whole top section here can rotate back and forth, and it can also hinge up and down. And additionally to that, Godzilla does have a mid-torso ball joint that hinges up, it hinges down, and you can rotate it back and forth as well. Don't worry, I'm not going to forget the arms. Arms hinge out, and they're basically made up of two parts. So you got the bicep area right here, and then of course you got the forearm. The bicep actually sits just underneath that collar. And this collar, as I didn't mention it in the other review of Godzilla, is more of a softer piece, sort of a softer appliance that they put over top of the torso. In a way, it sort of does a good job of hiding the joint that conceals inside that socket joint, because basically this is just overlapping over top of it. But the arm does move forward, it moves back, it moves out at almost a 90-degree angle bend. Speaking of bends, he also does have a bend in the elbow that moves the forearm back and forth, and you can also rotate that forearm all the way around as well if you want to. Of course, as you do that, it's going to break up the paint scheme, so it's not going to stay consistent, but that's just sort of one of the ways. It's one of the downsides, unfortunately, by having paint being in selective areas. When you do rotate things like arms and you rotate legs, of course, that's going to break that up a little bit. It's bound to happen. Hands rotate all the way around. Not only do they hinge forward, they hinge back, but he also does have articulation like the other Godzilla did in his 3 fingers. They're all one piece right here. Going back to the rest of his body, because there's still a lot to talk about. We've already talked about this joint. We talked about the mid-articulation here. But then he also has this section right here. And while this doesn't have articulation, it sort of is the starting point for the rest of the tail. The tail has a ball joint here. It has a ball joint here. So count them off. There's 1, there's 2. Then he does have 1 right here. There's 3. Has 1 there. There's 4. And then it's from there sort of falls apart in the sense that you have to start keeping track of the count, because there's definitely a lot of joints going on here. There's another one there. There's another one there. And of course, when you get to the tail, this is a separate piece. And then this is all a wire frame. Moving back to the rest of his body, though. His legs split out, not much though, and tends not to be the case with a lot of the Godzilla releases. You're not going to be able to spread and split those legs too much. However, the legs do go forward, they go back, and just to some extent, just a little bit out as well. Has a bend at the knee. The lower leg does rotate forward and back. And then also for the foot articulation, because they gave a nice big bulky ball joint, means that you can tilt the feet back and forth this way. You can move them up and down this way, and you can also rotate the feet all the way around. Understanding, of course, that this is simply just a repaint of the one that we gotten before. Once again, we'll bring in the original Godzilla so you guys can see. There's not much that does change, mold-wise at least. Where the substantial changes come into play is when you start looking at the color scheme. This one has the vibrant yellow and those little lightning spiraled out lines that they've added to both the legs, the arms, and his back. Does enhance the experience. And you may not be able to be picking up both of these, but it does give you some idea of what NECA can do with one existing mold painted in 2 different ways. Now, will everybody be wanting to pick up the color variant for Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S? Maybe not. Maybe so. If you are a die-hard collector of the Godzilla figures like I am, you've been probably collecting every single release, every single incarnation of the King of the Monsters that NECA puts out. So absolutely, you'll be wanting to add this one to your collection. Other people that probably are going to be going into this casually may be more inclined to pick up just the regular colored Godzilla. But don't overlook this one simply just because it's deemed a repaint of the exact same mold. As you can hopefully see in this review, the amount of color that they're able to incorporate into his body is a nice way of breaking up the otherwise gray color palette that we normally expect to see on Godzilla's. Not only does he have it on the underbelly carried all the way up to his jaw, but he also has it on those platelet spikes on his back as well. In that case, it's done in blue instead of the traditional gray that the other Godzilla had, so there's a lot of pops of color being incorporated into this one. In a way, I feel like NECA could have found this opportunity as well with the variants of Godzilla from Tokyo S.O.S. to incorporate some additional accessories like fire breath or something just to make this one feel even more the variant to the original one. But again, just in the paint alone, to get an enhanced experience from a figure that you may already have in your collection, it's by adding those little pops, in this case quite a lot of pop of yellow, that just makes the figure feel like he's pulsating in energy. Could you imagine as well shining a light just on the underbelly of Godzilla to even make that glow even brighter? Really liking what they've done to this one, even though it's a figure that we have already gotten already. This one, as far as I know, is coming out in September. This is technically an early look, as far as I know. I think most online stores and sites are advertising both the Godzilla and the Godzilla in the variant colors from Tokyo S.O.S. as being a pre-order release in September 2020. So if you're in the market picking this one up for yourself, I don't think it's out just yet, but it will be coming out very soon. A big thank you again to the folks over at NECA Toys who provided the sample of both the variant of Godzilla and the original Godzilla from Godzilla Tokyo S.O.S. Let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of it. And also let me know down below, even though it's reusing the exact same mold, are you one to jump the chance of getting a color variant if it's done something like this? And I think it's been done quite well. Always like reading your comments down below if you like the channel and enjoying the content you're seeing so far. And let's just say, I don't know, you've been worrying about a giant lizard walking through your city and you never got a chance to do it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and keep those peepers of yours peeled. As Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you'll find new videos popping up on this channel. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.